Good afternoon. Not very numerous friends in the audience. It's still very pleasant to see you in this huge room for 200 people. Let the others be sad that they missed nice greetings. It's time that we kick off. And this panel discussion is all about this cool term, InsurTech, insurance technologies. We're discussing all the things that keep digital revolution in insurance back. But before we start discussing that with our panelists, I want to introduce them. I'll start with to my right. Linar Garifullin. He's a general director of Akbar's Insurance, a very distinguished insurance company. Next, Maxim Danilov from All Russia Union of Insurers, our major partners on the markets, our partners at the central bank, and they have our connecting link. And should we find some practical solutions here, the union will be contributing to the implementation. To my right immediately is Igor Zhuk, and I don't think he needs an introduction, so you know him very well. He's director of the insurance department at the Bank of Russia. He's my colleague, and we work closely together all the time. Next to me is Bernhard Lang. He's member of boards at MSG Group, and if you go to their website, you will find very impressive financial results, and also that the group provides consultations and advisory on insurance, IT platforms and insurance, and we are looking forward to what Bernhard has to say, and what we'll hear will probably feed into our discussion. Artem Yamanov is a member of the board at Tinkoff Bank. Not a single panel session missed mentioning Tinkoff. Probably you need to moderate yourself and say that I'm Tinkoff Insurance. The Tinkoff Group today is one of the leaders in various innovative online technologies, and we're looking forward to what Artem has to say. And finally, last but not least, Mr. Chopra, our good colleague from Sberbank Insurance. We have heard a lot about Sberbank as a credit institution has been moving forward. And again, we're looking forward to what Sberbank Group and Sberbank Insurance has to offer there. I want to set the tone for this panel discussion, and we decided that together with panelists before the session, there's this mixed feeling that on the one hand, we have been using a lot those terms, machine learning, emotional intellect, artificial intellect, the Internet of Things, visualization for users, and so on and so forth. By using the terms, we very rarely have any understanding of the practical implementation of those very wonderful things. So what I want to ask my panelists, what of all things that we heard about yesterday and today at the plenary sessions, what we can use in insurance, telematics, probably e-policies, or underwriting, probably based on machine learning or simplified simplified machine learning. But my question is whether the insurance as a sector, its companies are ready to embrace innovative technologies and to be at the cutting edge of financial technologies, and whether we could say that the insurance market is the market of InsurTech. When I was preparing for this panel discussion, I noted while reading that there's been some major progress on part of the consumers, and various research data suggests that almost 1/4 of consumers related to insurance, people buying policies, they use the internet. 1/6 of the buyers use their mobile devices, smartphones, and actually expectations are even higher, and they show that up to 80% of all insurance users will be relying on their mobile devices, and 90% of them will be using websites. So we see very deep penetration, and we are very hopeful all these expectations will come true. The insurance market is very conservative. Insurers want to be a part of the process, of course, but back in 2016, about 3/4 of all respondents were claiming that fintech is a threat. They were fearing losing the business. However, in 2017, the picture has been changing. They may not be embracing fintech yet, but they are prepared to live with that and probably are ready to invest in some innovative products. I want to give floor to Bernhard first, and I wonder if he could talk about some global trends, what we see in the insurance market in terms of insurance technologies, what your customers want from you, what they ask of you, what sort of practical projects are there being implemented. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a great honor for me to be here today. I understood today is the day of insurance in Russia. Is that right? So it's a big honor for me at this day to be here at the panel. Thank you very much for the invitation. What do our customers ask for currently? I think looking at the adoption of technology, I think insurance industry is already pretty advanced in some markets. Everybody's spending a lot of money. We see two customer segments. So there's one customer segment that is rather observing and is waiting what's happening in the market, and other ones who don't want to miss a single topic. So they invest in all kinds of accelerators, they participate in every innovation lab that's happening, they are part of every technology community, and they try to translate it to insurance. So we see the two extremes. My personal opinion is maybe you don't have to be the first mover in insurance. I think you have to be agile, to be very quick, and maybe if you see a good concept in the market, that you adopt that concept and then maybe copy it even. I mean, most of the things you can copy, you can do yourself. And there are some examples maybe from other industries. If I look at the consumer electronics, mobile phones, yeah, Samsung is one of our customers in Korea, and they told me once they're not the most innovative company, they're the ones who have the latest technology earlier in the stores. And I think that's a little bit true for insurance as well. I think there's so many initiatives and nobody knows exactly what will be the future. The future will be different, that's for sure, and the future will be technology driven. But it's most important that you create an agile organization, that you're able to adopt as quickly as possible if you really see a new business model coming up that's relevant. We see many good examples, new business models. I would like to explain one example that's a little bit disruptive to me, but it's a very appealing sales story. It's the example of Vitality and Discovery from South Africa. So they're having a franchise model all over the world. So we see more and more businesses selling Vitality products. And that's a totally different view to look at risk. And it's also addressing one aspect. You learn much more about your insureds. One big problem of the industry is you don't know a lot about the insureds. There's a very cold relation between insureds and the insurance company. So maybe you have once a year contact, maybe there's a letter exchange, maybe there's a phone call. But what do you know about your customers? And I think these models like Vitality, and the key characteristics of it is, for instance, a loyalty and reward program where you honor good behavior. I mean, you can translate that with usage-based insurance and motor insurance. You can use that in health insurance. If somebody's going for medical checkups, you give him points. He can collect the points. There's a gamification that they compare who is doing better. You get points for that, and with the points you get some rewards. There's a catalog like a air mile system basically, where you can buy some goods and you are connected. So the appealing thing is, I believe, when you talk to Discovery, their promises, they give you more years to live. So when you are a highly engaged Vitality member, they say your life expectation is growing. Of course, it's a little bit marketing behind that, because maybe the people who don't live healthy might not subscribe for a Vitality tariff. But I mean, it's a big promise that the insurance industry somehow allows you and advises you healthy lifestyle, healthy food, what kind of medical checkups you do on a regular basis, and the result of that is a better risk, and there's a strong loyalty of these customers. If you see the customers who are using Vitality tariffs for many, many years, the cancellation rate is very low. So the ones who are highly active in that system, they barely cancel their policies. So I think that's a nice idea, and I think that's a great sales story also to motivate people to buy insurance, to get in touch with you through a loyalty and reward program. You understand more about your customers, and you can also offer them additional products. You can learn about their life situation. So I think that's a very interesting concept. I think the whole area of IoT is very interesting. We have one customer in the States. They have a very smart distribution model. They sell property insurance through a Google search. So they say the entry for us, maybe for selling a property policy, is a Google search on a fire alarm, or maybe of a water sensor. So if somebody's looking for that, you have to get the first keyword, and that says, okay, you get the fire alarm from us, from Insurance ABC, and through this device, if you buy property insurance from us, then you get the device for free. And maybe there's an extended service that we connect you maybe with the fire engine in the moment where you have alarm, you're not at home, that somebody is taking care of your home. So I think these kinds of new approaches will generate more business for insurance. There's also some threats in the market. If I look at the platforms that are coming up, let's take motor insurance. Motor insurance is present in every market. It's most of the time the biggest book of business of our customers. And right now, that business is changing. Right now, you have a relation to your insurance company. You insure your car. But if you look in future, so we see mobility services, for instance. Instead of owning your own car, you have a mobility service. You subscribe to that service. And all of a sudden, the insurance company is pushed into the second row. So you don't own the customer relation anymore. The one that sells the service, the mobility service, owns the customer relation, and the insurance company is somehow standing in second row. So there's a fight around who owns the customer, who has access to the customer, who has a digital relation to the customer, and that requires technology, that requires modern applications in order to be part of that. Is this the biggest spend of our customer? You ask what our customers are currently asking for. That's relatively small business, and also when it comes to results, I think that doesn't pay the bills. I think you have to be in that space. You can generate some more business, but still the money you earn with the classical business. There is also the concern of maybe the mature market players. Do they cannibalize their existing business? What are the brokers think when you all of a sudden do more and more online? Is this something where you start a revolution all of a sudden, and you risk the loyalty of your sales staff? So these kinds of thoughts are sometimes in the heads of managers when they maybe don't go full speed into the digital world. Can they afford all these new fancy technologies? I think the share of wallet, what they are spending, and maybe that's a message to the regulator as well. Currently in the markets where I'm active, they have to spend a lot on regulation. We have IFRS 17. Now it's also with milestones, when you have to be ready, when you have to produce the first IFRS 17 balance sheet. That's currently the biggest spend of our customers. And if you see, okay, on the one hand side, the market is changing, consumer behavior is changing. On the other side, the biggest spend is rather on the regulatory side. Then, of course, you allocate capacity, assets, manpower on topics that you might want to use in other places. It's not all bad about IFRS 17, and I think there is a good thing in that as well, because it makes the industry more transparent. It gives you more visibility about your portfolio, the value of your portfolio, the risk. We have one very interesting project in that space currently going on, and it's also a sort of innovation where a customer wants to look at this portfolio from a multi-gap perspective. So he wants to look at that portfolio and wants to see how does it, what's the result under IFRS 17, what's the result under Swiss GAAP, what's the result under US GAAP, and then based on that take management decisions also. So that's a new dimension that comes with a regulation originally, which brings a business benefit at the end. Of course, there's a big potential when it comes to digitalization in the digital efficiency. So optimize back office processes. I mean, that's a huge topic currently. All kinds of process mining solutions combined with artificial intelligence, automating back office processes, reduce maybe labor usage, automate more and more. So I think that's definitely a very, very good business case where our customers see immediate benefit and where a lot of investments are going in there. Artificial intelligence is something what we see very, very often. Some really spectacular cases. I was just talking to a customer who is using voice recognition in the claims management process in the call center. So they can detect already if the person who is calling is somehow emotionally in a situation where you might are confronted with claims. So it's amazing what's already possible in that area. We are currently doing, especially in that area, a research project with emotional internet and emotional recognition, which is fantastic. And so basically, how can you identify if I'm currently in a good mood, or if I'm stressed, or if I'm nervous? I think there's a lot what the industry can adopt. For instance, long-term care. You could combine, for instance, motion sensors or body functions sensors with care products, where you see maybe somebody in your family is under long-term care, and through motion sensors, all of a sudden you are able to monitor and you are able to see, is he in a good mood, is he not in a good mood? I think all these new technologies, all these new business cases is something where we as a software and IT provider don't believe that we are the ones who are developing a package and we offer it to the market and people will use that. So we believe this will be done in a sort of an open innovation environment. We believe in innovation labs. We operate innovation labs ourselves. Cookhouse Lab is our best example in North America, in Toronto, where we work with 17 insurers, but also market players. There are even lawyers, auditors, part of that, where we jointly work on projects, innovation projects, and bring them, if they are approved by everybody, bring them in execution, deliver these solutions, and roll it out to our customers. So that's very interesting, and we believe this open innovation will be the way also collaboration with market experts to come to new solutions. And I think in all three areas we would like to do far more. Of course, in innovation space, everybody wants to do that. That's the fun part of the business. But the reality is there's a lot of investments, many big projects in the regulatory space, in the back office space, back office renewal, back office optimization. And of course, we need the assets to go to innovation. I don't believe in disruption in insurance. I believe it will be an evolutionary way. I don't believe there will be an Airbnb or a Uber in insurance that all of a sudden takes the whole market. I doubt that. I think it's rather the existing players who will evolve over the time and will get digital over the time.
Thank you very much. Well, I believe everyone has heard what the have heard, but well, the regulators may have heard that well, it's quite a costly thing related to the regulation of such innovative products and projects. Well, in Russia, the situation is different because well, the regulator here treats the insurance companies with care, and so they have, let's say, more opportunities to provide and to develop innovative projects. But I believe that Bernhard repeated several times, well, in different variations, speaking about the three trends. That's the optimization of the operational activities, that's the enhancing the interest in the clients, that's and the technologies for analyzing data, that's artificial intelligence, etc. And so these are the three trends that we see globally, and I believe that colleagues that represent well the global and major insurance companies, I believe that they should focus on such these points. And so now I would like to address the next question to our colleagues and to Hanos or somebody else who would say about the Russian companies. Linar, maybe you could say a few words about what is the situation with innovation. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and I congratulate you on our professional holiday. It's quite a symbolic conversation. What we hear, what we read, and what we see that the life is changing very fast, and we try to find our place in this new environment. And sometimes, well, there is not much optimism that we have, and I can try to explain why we're not very optimistic. So we know that how the markets operate, and we know our relations with the clients. But the thing is that the situation here is not very good because, well, almost, let's say, 37% of sales are affected by agents, by brokers, in a face-to-face transaction, and quite a large amount of transactions require intermediaries, and the insurance companies thus almost don't have face-to-face contacts with their clients. And so, well, insurance brokers may be something that belongs to the past, to yesterday, but nevertheless, we cannot strike out such brokers from our daily business because, such brokers say that, companies are just trying to rob us, to take away our bread, and we, that's why we try to stop the process of getting rid of brokers, because we haven't built a new infrastructure yet, and at the same time we're trying to destroy the existing infrastructure. And so speaking about the motor insurance, that's in the sphere of automobiles, we cannot largely affect the decision of our future clients which car they should select, which car they can buy. And that's why banks are leaders here as far as customer relations go, because they have close relations with the car selling dealers and the travel agencies, etc. And so we are linked to them. Basically, we haven't changed our customer relations over the past 100 years. So here is the policy, here is the insurance contract, here is your property, for instance. If something happens to a car or to a house, it's burned down, so come to us and we will see. But we see how the situation is changing, and the young people today, they're thinking in different categories. And we are just following in their wake, and we follow in the wake of new businesses and new banks. I don't think that we'll be able to set up our own ecological ecosystem as far as insurance goes. We'll have to adapt to the ecosystems in the banking sector, in the automotive sector, etc., because they are more agile and they are adapting to the new realities. And so we have to understand that and to step up our activities. Otherwise, we'll be left at the curb of the road, because, we can be left behind. Well, at the same time, these are the risks, but they're not so gloomy. We now know where we should go, and that's personal insurance, life insurance, and that's where we can build insurance ecosystems. And so voluntary health insurance, voluntary life insurance, that's something where we can develop indefinitely. In our laboratory, we have launched a project which is devoted to the DMS 2.0 and the polyclinics and outpatient clinics 2.0 under the slogan that it's lucrative to be healthy. Consequently, we can develop along the main trends, along the main roads that we see today. If we are working in the healthcare sector, we generate and accumulate quite a large chunk of big data. That's medical screens, medical checks, and prevention of diseases, and etc. So now, today, it's very important to have sources of information, sources of data, and build algorithms that would process this data. And so we can, by using big data and appropriate algorithms, we can provide very good analytical data and make solutions regarding underwriting. So when people take care of their health, they go through medical checks on a regular basis. It means that the insurance companies find such clients less risky. And again, it's linked to the regulation. And here, I believe that we can go on developing without any limits. And so, well, for instance, let's say medical alarm clock is another vehicle or instrument that you can, if we're talking about, let's say, weight, if the weight goes down, if a person had extra weight, then again, this client may receive additional bonuses. If we talk about the cholesterol level, again, if a person is controlling the level of cholesterol on a permanent basis, and then there are positive results, again, he can obtain appropriate bonuses. The regulator is looking into this direction of insurance company development and as far as supervision and regulation goes. And we have set up a network of web doctor. There is a special app which is downloaded on the smartphone, and people can just ask some questions of a doctor, and the doctor has the personal folder, and he knows or she knows all your personal data, your profile, your health state, and he can give you recommendation and even send you to an appropriate outpatient clinic, paying attention to the distances, to the cost of services, etc. And so, well, thus we can control such things. Here is a great potential. Thank you very much. But frankly speaking, it was a very interesting presentation, but several days ago, just prior to this session, I looked through the websites of the major insurance companies in Russia. And so if we just imagine that you haven't spoken about what you have said to us, but let's open any website, and then how can we obtain the information that you have destroyed? Because, well, some websites are quite boring. They don't have any attractive pointers and whatever. It's one thing to have a product, but you've got to sell it. And Hannes, maybe I would like. Vladimir, thank you. And I again congratulate everybody on this holiday. And actually, on Sunday, we have another holiday to celebrate because it would be our professional holiday. And so I would like to speak separately about the strategy of insurance companies, although I will speak about my personal company that I represent, although these are common things for lots of such companies. We are developing a small algorithm which could ensure an automated approach, and it can be regulated, controlled when there is, let's say, a box of products, when there are things are quite simple, there are no problems. So we have clients' data, and we can analyze either through online instruments or via texts or some other instruments what we can offer to our clients and how they respond. So in our company, Sberbank Insurance, we have analyzed all those products which are already on our balance and those which we are thinking about to put on our balance sheet. While, of course, with Naim, that we also have a startup which is working very well with the forensic services because, well, we immediately get information whether there are fake documents or falsifications regarding some documents in that sphere. And so, but if we look separately at InsurTech, at investment into new startups, which are ready to cooperate with insurance companies, then we see that there's little that happens. If, for instance, fintech, it's over $45 billion US dollars in terms of investment last year, and so InsurTech had less than 2 billion, although this sector is growing very fast. So 4 years ago it was less than 300 million, but again, well, there is no comparison between the resources, and so most investors are major insurance companies as Allianz, Viva, etc., and those that they have their own venture funds and they're ready to finance this money into various startups. We have, unfortunately, have a small amount of such resources that we could invest into really disruptive cases or breakthrough cases. Well, we know that most cases and most projects are still operating, and we don't have, or rather have very few new business cases. The insurance companies, as you have said at the beginning, are very conservative. And Brett King, yesterday, when delivering his speech, he said that everything starts with people. And if we want to make very fast changes, then you have to hire people not from the insurance sector, but from design sector, from the IT sector, etc., from those successful digital companies that are different. So in digital companies, almost 70% of their staff are IT people, and so these requires very serious changes, and well, clients have their own barriers, and we know that despite all the development that we have achieved, and well, the regulator also requires reliability, stability, and we know that we have still our own insurance markets, but clients still have their own doubts. And well, I'm not talking about those people who are called digital native, who are do online and they do everything online, but we have very often Sberbank branches where clients come and they just come in order to receive face-to-face services because they love to physically walk into a branch office, and they always want to know more information about such physical offices rather than use online services. And so again, this will give us food for thought in order to invent and successfully develop an appropriate startup. But as the insurance community, and I hope that Maxim will be talking about that later on, that we've got to offer some initiatives regarding the trends of future development of our insurance segment. For instance, in China, the most successful insurance disruptor, Jonan, and where the insurance company, the Tencent and the Alibaba, who everybody knows that. So all these electronic platforms, they started working jointly, and they set up a fully digital platform, which may be a very good example for us, an example how we can strengthen our industry. Thank you very much. But maybe Maxim can take the floor now. So what I heard from the previous speakers, that investments into InsurTech were smaller in amount, and we also used some statistical data which relates to big data, but again, statistically saying that in Russia we have really huge databases, and which contain masses of data, which is so important for appropriate analytical work, then definitely it's too early. Maybe you could say what's your vision of the future solutions, how we can augment and increase such different sources of big data, and how so MSS wants to be a hub in everything, and we are truly discussing at this stage in time so that organize the formal discussion of this new project, and even the preliminary informal discussions already demonstrated the interest of about 80 different companies that have expressed interest in participating in this new project. Well, these people are very interested, motivated, and they are not interested in only those things which are being generated right now at this point in time. Well, there are some sandbox projects as well, artificial intelligence and the total blockchain. Well, right now it's just a hype rather than a practical project. But what, in our opinion, would improve the sector, this industry, that's predictive analytical skills. Why? Let me start from a long distance. Digital economics generate two assets. That's the growth of operational chains and the total reduction of transactional costs. The manifold increase of chains is related to the multifold increase of risks. If 15 years ago, in order to get a virus into the computer, one had to use a disk or a diskette, and so today millions of computers may be infected with a virus within seconds, and so again it's a matter of scaling, and so the same could be seen in the future in the sphere of digital economics, and the risks are becoming quite scalable too.
So the traditional insurance companies will not be in a position to cope with the digital risks, the emerging digital risks. So for the future of insurance is in the predictive analytics, where you deal with data, you shape your scenarios and try to preempt risks at the time, even before they emerge. We've been thinking about that in our union, and we were thinking about some new digital projects based on risk profiles that would allow insurance companies to focus more on risk management. Are you persuading insurers to share data with you? We have been talking to them. We are raising their awareness. It's not so much down to insurers it's all down to global information exchanges and involving more and more players in various digital projects. We have the knowledge in terms of risk management that we could share. Okay, let's move on. Igor, my next question is to you. Today and even yesterday, we had a discussion about the place that the state or the government may have in the economy. What would you prefer? Would you want the government to support, not to interfere, or just help with the risks? We wanted to see the government somewhere down below, but they keep getting the upper hands, and they actually look more efficient when they manage you, whether from the top or from below. Maxim offered very brilliant vision, but I'm rather a disbeliever. As they say, for you to be appreciated, you need to be needed. Our market needs resources. Take, for example, electronic policies. It all started before we had the mega regulator, and we were thinking about that. Now we have the mega regulator in the Bank of Russia. The market seemed to be evolving. They sold 5 million electronic policies. So why didn't we do that before? What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be too opposing to any initiative that comes from top, from the regulator, from the government. We only have about 230 insurance companies left on that market, so you better be wary, as it were. And it'll be good for the companies to understand what kind of a digital strategy they want. We wanted to see tangible, implementable. Digitalization is a grand word. We need some sort of a platform to proceed it. You were right in saying what you said, Maxim. But my question is, do we need a decade, or we could manage all that change in 2-3 years? And the same is true of international standards. We don't need to devise something totally new. If we want to integrate, become part of the global economy, we need to do something for that. It looks like we insist on inventing something purely ours, and it doesn't work. And then there are certain regulatory issues, for example, the federal law 115. It's true, we need to amend them to work better, and we are quite supportive. We know that this electronic mediation disappeared. Why? Because we wanted to clean this topic of remunerative fees relating to car insurance. And again, we've got lots of initiatives, and I'm sure you're all aware of them. What I wanted to highlight at this point in time is the need to shift the paradigm. to increase your financial result, you want to increase your penetration. And overnight, based on new technologies, through better knowledge of customers, this is something very good. But then you need to do your own calculations to make estimates. You will need to invest in various devices, apps, and so on and so forth. You will not be getting bad customers because they have to pay a lot. So you will get a lot of good customers who will be behaving well, leading healthy lives, and you will not be getting your margin that you want to have. So again, we need to involve resources that will cover us for a number of years, and it's a good prospect. But there is lack of understanding on the market, lack of agreement. I'm sure the Bank of Russia is there to help us in that as well. Thank you. Igor, in his statements, basically covered the topic of regulation and the work that the regulator, the mega regulator, has been doing. My question is next to Artem. You've heard from the insurers here. I understand that you're still sitting on the board of an insurance company, but my question to you is about things that can be implemented first thing as a priority in the InsurTech, and what does your bank have for the insurance arm of its business in terms of new developments? This InsurTech is a new word for Russians. It sounds almost oriental, and I've heard some clever words and wise things from my colleagues here. But basically, what is the role of the insurance company in Russia at this point in time, and why insurance companies failed to create their own ecosystem? And this is the fact. Russian insurance companies have always been rather weak in Russia, and this branch, this industry is very weak in terms of its contact and knowledge of the customer, and we don't expect it to build it overnight. And there will be many other companies, tech companies, Yandex, Megaphone as a mobile operator. They all are competing with insurance companies for their data. Now, the question about digitalization and what has been happening in other countries as well. It's no secret that sales are important when insurance companies are selling their products directly. Direct insurance, direct underwriting, historically in Europe evolved based on the model of car insurance. It's important to be able to sell that insurance online, and this is a good indication that people access insurance companies' websites. They're buying those policies directly from insurance companies, not from the car dealers or from other suspects, the people selling it at the curb of the roads. We finally arrived to the point when we are in a position to sell electronic policy, and we're moving towards almost 100% electronic sales, but it doesnDoesn't help us fully. The reason why InsurTech is still fledgling in Russia is that the car insurance is not profitable, and hence there is little of InsurTech, electronic policy, and if you don't get enough margin from selling from your website, there is no InsurTech, definitely. So what shall we be doing? I think we need to work more in the car insurance, mandatory car insurance. insurance business is all about credits, and I've been dealing with credit business for some time, and you need a lot of predictive analytics. And the credit business, you could offer different pricing. You could decide whether you will or will not offer the loan. It's different in the mandatory car insurance. That's the reason why our clients keep pursuing different insurance companies and vice versa. And if you're insistent enough, you can still get the electronic policy. But there are lots of obstacles you need to navigate. Why? Because insurance companies simply don't want to accept losses. Something should be done there. On the topic of digitalization, we may be lagging behind a lot in terms of predictive analytics or other products. We may not have enough accessible, available data, particularly ones that new insurance companies may need, like ours. There's no working credits bureau in this country. The insurance company do work with big data. We analyze where customers go, what sort of spare parts they have had replaced or repaired. So you could call it big data or not very big data, but we don't have what insurance companies can see about clients in the United States, for example. So I understand that the union may want to be an aggregator, or Rosgostrach wants to be an aggregator. However, aggregating information is a separate business. For that, you need actually credit bureaus. They will be having no conflict of interest then, and this is something that you need for the banking industry as well, and our credits bureaus in the banking sphere are no worse than those in Europe technologically, and in terms of services they provide, they're quite cool. But now what do we see basically in terms of the way the sector is moving? One of the super trends is that insurance companies or insurance services are trying to interact with their customer, not just underwrite a policy, but do the Google search and keep the feedback up. And telematics are very important. Telematics can be for cars in the form and shape of various devices built in the car to analyze the style of driving, the distance kept. But you could do telematics for people in the smartphones so that they would analyze how much time goes for sports, what sort of health risks the owner has, and you could try and impact the lifestyle, offering points, rewards, sort of a game that you play with the customer. InsurTech in insurance services in other countries have been quite prominent. In Russia, unfortunately, insurance companies probably may never catch up, and all these services will be provided by other ecosystems. Could be in banks or like Sberbank, or banks like ours, or probably they will be distributed among several ecosystems. The services definitely will come, and the InsurTech will not be limited to insurance companies only. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, of all the things that you told us, like credit bureaus, credit histories, and things. It's not so much the name that is important and where they could be located. You could argue or whether this or other institution could be more professional. At this point in time, we should focus on offering a quality, good quality product. My feeling is that insurance companies in isolation, they're sitting on their own databases. They are not representative. They are not in a position to offer good analytics. They cannot claim that they could base their decision making on that product. If you try and pull it together under any of the auspices, it could be much better. So you're right in that. My question to Bernhard, I wonder if you participated at a 9 o'clock plenary session. Did you attend the plenary session this morning, Bernhard?
Partly. Ага. Называется, if I ask you about the boats, если я вас спрашиваю...
And if I ask you about the robots out there to help customers, did you hear anything helpful there at the plenary session or not at all?
Of course, we deal with robot advice and
Да, вот вопрос, вот мой вопрос.
So my question is about that specifically. Our colleague presented at the plenary some sort of an ecosystem or a marketplace whereby robots will be advising non-qualified investors, and they will play an important role. Bots will be offering solutions for various financial sectors, including insurance. I wonder if you have any clients approaching you and you developing any bots, robots advising them, solutions like that?
Key technologies right now, what we discuss with all our clients, and if you look at these platforms that are coming up, chatbots, bots, robo-advice, that's all part of that. I think key in that area, let's start in a different way. I saw one of the disruptive jobs that will fall apart in future. I think one of the top jobs, I think, was financial advisors. So I think it's pretty obvious that with robo-advice is the key technology to disrupt that job model in future. So I think there's the efficiency part to that you say, okay, definitely it's better quality. So if you see some scandals in the past as well of wrong advice, fraudful advice as well, it's a big topic. So I think you can have a quality improvement through that concept. I think on the other side, of course, the robot comes also with a different price tag than the financial advisor. So I think these are very obvious reasons why this technology will make it into insurance companies. We discuss a lot with our customers, all kinds of aggregator portals, but in various aspects of our clients. We did in our innovation lab, for instance, I mentioned the Cookhouse lab before. So we work on specific industry problems in our Cookhouse lab, and usually we advise market players, to co-innovate on problems. Robo-advice is one of the projects that we have on the list. So basically, we as an IT provider, we explain the technology, we say what you can do with that, and then together with our clients, we work on business models and use cases. Usually there's a very fruitful discussion if you bring insurers, brokers, maybe reinsurers to the table, some technology experts. Maybe you make a session at the beginning explaining what's the technology, because very often I think you need a common base, a common understanding before you can talk real business and real use cases. So starting with that, and then there are spectacular cases out of that. I mean, with robo-advice on life insurance, for instance, we had one use case where in a 2 weeks project with 5 members of our Cookhouse lab, the InsurTech accelerator. So we started there, and now it's potentially, if clients are ticking it off, it will be a project that goes into execution. And then, of course, there's always a question from a technology execution. Sometimes it's an effort. Yeah, not every company is able to adopt that technology. So having a so-called new business builder or company builder that's taking this innovation that comes out of an innovation lab and putting it in production and introducing it later on and integrates it with existing back office processes. That's definitely something what a provider like us will support, and then maybe soon we have the first use case. So far, I don't have a practical case that's already operative, but we are hopeful that one of these members will sign up for that, and we will bring it in production soon.
Да, спасибо.
Thank you very much.
Господина Швецова.
I was listening to what Mr. Shvetsov was saying during the plenary, and I had certain pictures that I had in my mind. I had my own picture for the banking. Now for the insurance, I wonder whether it is possible for me, if I access this or other platform or I use my smartphone, I want to be told, listen, you need to know what's new in insurance. This is what you could do, or say, tell me, it's good that you have a car policy, but you need to do this and that. You need to repair this or that, and then you forgot to insurance your house. You insure it only occasionally, and then there were these cases and other cases that you want to know about to insure your house. I need to get this kind of a fuller picture on insurance.
And so that's a question rather to Mr. Pozdnyakov. I, for instance, don't like really to disseminate my personal data everywhere, but if I talk about my personal insurance policy, I am ready to disclose more information than to anybody else, because I think it would be most useful. And so my next question is to Mr. Chopra. When can we expect something of the kind from Sberbank? And and so if somebody tells me, well, you know that this story, well, that should be done in Sber Insurance, this should be done in Akbar's and that in some other insurance company. And so if you do that in this sequence, then you'll get another bonus. So when can we expect that? Well, you can aspire to that. Well, Sberbank Group, let's speak with the simplest things. You can, if you use Sberbank Online, we already have this planning vehicle, and we're developing this planning vehicle so that would be able to give more and more recommendations and advice to the clients. And right now, the clients of Sberbank, through Sberbank Online service, they can purchase policies, insurance policies in various spheres. So we are developing such services, and I'm really sure that for our population, only the insurance policy only would be very difficult to achieve. So if we want to develop in various directions at the same time, like building our own ecosystem and develop new products and e-policies and digital data banks, we've got to pay attention to regulation. As an insurance company, I cannot, for instance, offer certain services due to the lack of regulation. Or if I offer such services, then I will have to pay more for this chance to do that. And so we should be talking and thinking about this future regulatory network or landscape when lots of barriers are removed. It's not just a matter of the future. We've got to start changing the situation right now. It's a regulatory approach so that, insurance companies would be able to offer additional services as part of their own businesses. Right now, we cannot do it. But I'm sure that this venue of development will enable us in 2 years' time to have such instruments that would provide such services to different consultation services to different clients. For instance, you should rather pay attention to that product, and you maybe should focus on another thing. And we understand that transparency is important, and it's really important for us and for the clients. And the clients would trust insurance companies more. Yes, you touched upon another major issue, because we try to surpass the borders of this tunnel thinking or tunnel vision. And we see more and more that lots of businesses differ from one another only by their name, or strictly speaking, they are doing very similar things. For instance, I'm doing financial, I work in the financial market and I provide financial services. But basically, if you analyze such financial services of this particular company, they're very close to your business. If, for instance, well, the cryptocurrencies have disrupted the regulators' world just a few years ago, then what we are talking about may disrupt the financial market, because if we treat this financial market as uniform and holistic system, then certainly we should be awaiting some disruptive things. And my question is next to Linar. Well, we were thinking about e-policies regarding mandatory car insurance, but until a regulatory act or a law was adopted, well, very little progress has been made. And so what do you think about it? Well, the first problem that we've got to resolve in terms of good quality, good speed of our actions and of services, that's the up-to-date data that we must acquire about clients. For instance, well, we know that the client hasn't insured his car, but even if he doesn't like car policies, he would like to get a policy for about 2 hours of his trip in bad weather, in rain or blizzard, etc. But he would need such a short policy. And so the approach or the strategy that we've been using previously, well, buy this, well, it's not working anymore. Some policies, for instance, are quite popular. That's the insurance of apartments, insurance of summer cottages, of country cottages, etc. Well, because we have succeeded in this particular area. But if, for instance, our client wants to move elsewhere to another place, so presumably, his apartment, his cottage, his car are left behind. But then we've got to think about to go further, because this client may be traveling to Turkey, for instance, or abroad, and we've got to think about, let's say, his medical insurance and his mandatory insurance for foreign travel, and then maybe we've got to get in touch with the doctor who supervises or provides medical services to this particular client. So I think that we have to be more active, and we've got to be up to date. And so when we are up to date regarding our clients, when we are very appropriate and polite in dealing with such clients, then we will succeed. Well, So speaking about, let's say, topically or being up to date, and in particular your response to our policy. And so we all remember about fraudsters and rogues, and well, we live in not a perfect world, and so we shouldn't overlook the possibility of fraudsters and thieves, etc. So what do you think about this such short policies? And the second point that was that Linar made, that it would be quite useful for us, for insurers, to learn all the needs of our clients. So, okay, well, regulators certainly love that. So the insurers cannot really are not trying to know their clients very well. So in order to improve the situation here are the 3 packages of new standards that in forms that they have to fill out. So yes, well, thank you very much. I understand this concern. Well, we're talking about very complicated issues, as for instance the time franchising, and so the policy, e-policy should, even if it's purchased online, it must become effective. It must become effective on the same date. But if it's not effective, then a fraud has already been accomplished. The colleagues have mentioned the present-day steps. What we have to do now, let's say, the public ledger and the blockchain systems and the big data that's required for the blockchain operations. But again, we're talking again about the basic things, the resources. These are the qualitative primary data that we've got to take care of. And then, well, yes, I understand that, for instance, speaking about car dealers, and if the banks work with such car dealers and they sell their particular credits and loans to the clients and they receive their fees, etc., well, that works, and well, so what about the idea of being responsible for clients? Well, yes, well, certainly there are some tricky things here. Personal data. So speaking about banking data, insurance data, and some general personal data, well, no, we can disclose such information quite easily, but nevertheless, there are some personal data which are quite sensitive, and not everyone would be ready to disclose such data to insurance company. Well, it reminds me of various discussions about the product basket. Well, yes, in this basket we put all kinds of products, and so insurance policies are not purchased, they are sold. People don't like insurance companies, people don't like insurance policies because, well, yes, you have to pay a quite sometimes significant amount of money for something which may never happen. And if something happened, then yes, okay, clients can be recompensated for that, so for the damage. But if nothing happens, then certainly it's just wasted money in their eyes. And so that's approach. Well, we can start with simple things as, let's say, floods and earthquakes and some other natural disasters, which, yes, speaking about OSAGO, that's the mandatory car insurance, when we wanted to sell such policies electronically online. But we have learned our lessons, we've made our mistakes, and now we can, one of such mistakes was the very weak regulation, weak database, tariff setting policies that again were not very good. And so yes, we understand that now, well, Bank of Russia is our mega regulator, and well, but I would like to argue this issue with Tinkoff, although it's very difficult to do that with them. But nevertheless, well, I cannot really agree that we are hopelessly behind, that everything is bad, and then, well, there's no green light, no light at the end of the tunnel. But, well, I know the situation well, I'm not talking about the InsurTech, but the credit bureaus, because they are just accumulating and aggregating databases, and well, they've been doing it for ages without any blockchain technology. Well, we're not going. Whether lots of people can open bank deposits while they sit on their sofas and never leave their apartments. Well, I think very few, strictly speaking. Well, I believe that Igor Nikolaevich is just in charge of the insurance sphere, of the Central Bank of Russia. But if he could explain to bankers how things should be run. Well, I liked Artem's idea when he said, well, at least partly, as it seemed to me what you said, that before you invest something somewhere, we've got to clear some business models which already, let's say, reinstate the mandatory car insurance model. And so we start to invest into very well streamlined and operational business models, because we are not there are no risks. But the topic number two is just to create some innovative project in order to identify and remove some issue or problem. So
Начать, если можно.
I want to start a blitz session, short questions and short answers. The first question is, what is your priority? Innovations, digital technology, robots in the back office, automated bank payments, or services targeting your clients. You don't have money for all, maybe sounding provocative, but you need to select. Do you want to prioritize your back office processes or create some services for your clients first? Well, we have some questions and requests to regulator too, but if we are to choose back office, simple access, automation, they are the basic factors of hygiene. But you could do it sometimes jointly, because you could rely on your partners for some added value services. So we will focus on back office and create end-to-end experience for our clients. And services help you to save a lot because you work in partnerships. We are new to the market, and our business processes are already quite efficient in payouts and regulation. Our priorities at the moment is in new developments, new products, and offering a friendly interface. It is important to offer proper sets of products in a friendly interface. We'll be investing in that. And what do you think, Bernhard?
As a service provider, I have a different view, of course, so I have to react what our clients are demanding. And clearly the biggest part is in this area of digital efficiency, including robot-wise, all that. So efficiency, clearly. I think the other thing is we have to understand the market in the terms of innovation. So I think this open innovation, collaboration with our clients on new business models is very key. One interesting thing you discussed about service domination, so insurance being part of a larger service. So that's something where we just created a joint venture, for instance, with a German insurance company, Signal Iduna, and together with IBM, where we believe in future we will see more and more business cases where the service, the insurance, is part of a larger service offering. Mobility was one example. So if a fleet mobility, somehow insurance is bundled in there, and example, it's not bought, it's sold through that. And we believe in that model, so we will stay tuned on all what's going on the innovation side, but in parallel, definitely on the regulation, on the efficiency side, that's where most of the spend will go to.
Well, Anna's said that you need to remove lines that separate different types of businesses, and you said that as well. I think user services should be priority. This is should be part of an ecosystem. We're already being late to get there. We need to be on the lookout, and if you miss that chance, you lost the time, and you would have to invest more to catch up. We want to prioritize user services. We want the industry to think preemptively. For example, when they are talking about biometrics, they tend to focus on banks, and we are forgetting insurance, and we have to catch up all the time. For us, there is no either or. If you move very fast and your service is lagging behind, it means you're not efficient, or you're offering good services, but your company is not prepared to handle it in the back office. There's this there's no synchronicity, and you're already losing the business. I agree. I'm sure that when insurance companies saying that we need to improve our back office, one would think that they are forgetting about their customers, but it's probably not true. We don't have that much time left. What we could have is some questions from the audience, and I wonder if any of you want to pick on anything that we've discussed or ask your questions to panelists, but we need the microphone. Any questions? Don't forget to introduce yourselves and ask a question. Oleg Muskinov from MSG. My question is whether you think that for Russia, product on demand is relevant as a trend. Artem was the only one to mention it. And if I'm to report to you back what we heard from our insurance companies as clients. They are telling us we've got only 5 products, and it's probably all that we want to offer our clients. And whether these companies are in a position to issue some new products very fast. I argue this is what they need to be able to do, because it's basic thing to be coping with products on demand. Who do you want to address a question to? I think we should address that to panelists from insurance companies. Well, you've heard from me what I want. I want to have full customization with discounts. Our friend from Sberbank and Bernhard. We have picked on that. We were mentioning pay-as-you-drive, pay-as-you-go. This is a product on demand. And that is a very prospective trend. For insurance, it probably will be difficult to develop as strictly product on demand. But what can work is that you could bundle some other services with your insurance products. And then based on that, you could understand that there is some value in working with insurance companies that will be nurturing culture to embrace product on demand later. I don't see it as a big business today. Another topic here, if you look at insurance as a transaction product, where you have an e-commerce company that will be selling something together with insurance and extended warranty. This is possible, but it's not exactly product on demand. This is a slightly different topic. I apologize to Bernhard, but my topic is my understanding is that penetration is far from what we desire. So again, this duality, should we invest in something that would improve penetration? Or, of course, you could invest when the penetration is good, and then you will be too late. You have this risk that you miss the investment opportunity, or you invest in the expectation that sales improve, and then even if you don't know that sales will improve, you can still do something. Linar, it's not so difficult to create something new, but what the difficulty is about promoting it, how make your client aware of the product, and this is the problem. It is not difficult to create a product, it's difficult to promote it, and of course achieve a margin on it. Thank you. 2 words, if I may. I can assure you that product on demand is available. It is being implemented, but mostly only in life assurance. All these products are based on what the companies want. There is no regulatory bans or prohibition. It's all down to the companies and to their capacity. Well, there may be not enough volumes, not enough customization, but there is a way from the practical point of view. Another question from the audience? I wonder if a microphone is needed. We have interpreters, so they won't hear without a microphone. Natalia Savina. I'm coming from a non-governmental or private pension fund, but I used to work for insurance a lot. My question is to you, Vladimir. You were telling us that one day there will be some single or uniform license, but this probably won't be happening soon. I wonder if there's any realistic prohibition whereby a central bank does not allow other companies, insurance companies, to do other business, or banks not to do insurance at the same time using their license. I wonder if you are planning to lift this prohibition. I think it can be done very easily and simply. Easily and simply is a very good expression. My answer is no, there are no plans. And when I was talking about a uniform license, I was talking hypothetically. There are no practical plans. Obviously, if you forget about all legal dogmas and concepts, paper for the development of private insurance. One would argue it's easily, all those bans or limitations can be removed easily. I can assure you it is not so. This is a global process and nothing is easy and simple. I was not involved in all previous stories pertaining to the separation of businesses, but you should remember about risk diversification. We're talking here about risk diversification involving different legal entities. It was assumed professionally you cannot do everything unless you want to endanger some of parts of your business. So that is the background of all that. It's difficult for me to judge whether banks have any advantages, because you were talking from the point of view of operations or transactions only, but there are internal business processes or risk management at the corporate level, and whatever you say, clearly the banking community may be at the cutting edge in various areas, but there is a topic that you need to remember about, which is the supervisory burden that you need to take up in this or other industry. So when you try to take it all together, you probably, as a private pension fund, may not want to become a bank. Probably the agency model is more implementable, but I'm not talking about your specific private pension fund. But if you take a set of pension funds, the majority of them still rely on management companies. So it is not a totally independent industry. It's more like a pool. And despite all the efforts the government has been making in terms of mandatory mandatory insurance fund. So the answer to your question is no, we don't plan to do that for the uniform license. I think we have more or less finished with this panel discussion. Let me sum it up. Thank God, so we didn't decide to be very serious about artificial intellect. We all realize we still have a very long way to go there, and we decided not to talk about ontological semantics. This is probably too early for this panel, but what we all want to think about is the good quality databases, both at the corporate level or at the level of group of insurance companies, or even at the level of industry. There's lots of sense to implement some simplified machine learning, and some of you are doing that already. And thirdly, what Bernhard told us in the beginning, he said regulation is costly, it's very costly. So we all, as regulators, as insurance companies, should remember about that cost involved. Thank you all for your participation. Let us applaud the panelists, and thank you all for attending this session. See you around. Thank you.